Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Top Rope Takes. I'm Jason Marcus, along with Willie Thrill once again. Willie, another excellent episode of Monday Night Raw. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It is Summerslam weekend. It is upon us.
Biggest party of the summer.
So excited for it. And you said an excellent Raw show. I might have some disagreements there, but
Yeah,
we'll get into it.
you know what I said what I said, but I agree. There might be some room for some disagreement. I mean, we can just jump right into it because, listen, I think compared to any Vince McMahon episode, this was an excellent Monday Night Raw. But as far as a Triple H standard, you might have a point there. Actually thought, yeah, it might have been a little bit lackluster for specifically for a SummerSlam Go Home show. I expected them to do a little bit more, pull out more stops. But we can get right into it. So, open the show with a promo segment between Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins, who, of course, will be the special referee for their match this coming Saturday at SummerSlam. What were your initial thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, yeah, just in general about this episode of Raw, like you said, like this wasn't a bad episode of Raw by me any means. Like I thought this was a solid episode of Raw, but it just wasn't a go home episode to
Yeah.
get me excited. I felt like a lot of the angles that got me anticipated for the match happened before the go home show. There's nothing that the show did to add to my excitement.
Mm-hmm.
But going into that opening segment, yeah, no, I mean, it was it was good. It was a solid segment. Everyone got to say their piece. Seth Rollins kind of laid out how his referee, you know, what he was planning on doing as a referee, kind of like, not going to DQ you, not going to count you out, but hey, if you mess with me, I could still I'm the ref. I could still go ahead and insert my will over people, for lack of a better phrase. But I actually thought, and look, you know me, CM Punk fan, biggest
Yeah.
CM Punk fan there is.
Mm.
I thought Drew was actually the MVP of this segment. I
Oh,
thought Drew had a
interesting.
lot of great lines. I thought Drew made it so that, like, okay, there's still obviously, I think there's a lot of heat now back on the CM Punk Seth Rollins rivalry. Bless you.
Thank you.
Uh, their back and forth was really good, but Drew made a great point about how, like, you got to focus on me, and I'm chill and I'm calm now, but look at all these things that you've done to me. I'm going to rip your head off, for lack
Right.
again, for lack of a better phrase. He just had that intensity about him that I really like, and I just have been really enjoying this feud. I thought CM Punk, of course, was great in this segment too, being like, I am the best thing to happen to your career so far, which is true. Like, I haven't been this into Drew McIntyre in a while, and
Yeah.
really CM Punk brought that out. I was just thinking about this the other day. Like, if you had told me in like November that the big first CM Punk singles match was going to be Punk versus McIntyre, I'd have been like, I feel like, man, you're all over the place today, Jason.
I
What is
know. I
going
really
on?
am. I
What is
know.
going on, man? Get the alarm set. Do I got to scream into this microphone, Jason? We're fired up. It's SummerSlam weekend. Come on, Jason.
That's
All right.
right.
Look, here's what getting back to it. Now I'm
Yeah.
gonna, calm down
Yeah.
a little bit. But
Okay.
no, CM Punk, uh, I think he really brought the best out of Drew McIntyre, and Drew McIntyre's just been super interesting over the past 6 months. Again, said in November, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre, not as into it, but now this is clearly like this is my most anticipated match going into SummerSlam. Like it
Oh,
really could
100%.
go either way. Last week I said I can't imagine Seth Rollins counting the pin for CM Punk, but then over the past week it's been brought up SummerSlam 97, Sean
Mm-hmm.
reluctantly counting the pin for Brett and Bret Hart versus The Undertaker. I could see a scenario like that happen, but it's still tough. We'll get into it when we get into our SummerSlam predictions, but overall, really good segment. I think there's been other segments that have surpassed this in this feud, but a
Yeah.
good way to kind of lay out what we can expect at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, it's kind of the same shtick we've heard all from all three of them for a couple months now. I don't think it did anything to build the excitement for me. I kind of think it just kind of kept it at it kind of had plateaued for me the excitement. Like I'm happy to see the match, but if this segment happened or not, it didn't change anything for me.
That's very true. Yeah, I'm still the same amount of
Yeah,
excited as I was. Now that doesn't mean I'm not excited anymore. It
right.
didn't lower my excitement for the match. But you're right. This was very much a lateral move in my excitement for the SummerSlam match. Still looking forward to it though. Think it's gonna be an awesome match.
Yep, we're gonna do our official predictions after the end of our recap here, real quick. Not a ton of other highlights from the show, to be honest with you. We could talk about the Wyatt Six. We saw Eric Rowan, Joe Gacy, and Dexter Loomis unmasked for the first time, attacking the Creed brothers and Chad Gable. They will officially be in ring for the first time next week, six-man tag, the Raw after SummerSlam. We also got the VHS with Dexter Loomis. Not a ton of talking in that one, kind of very similar to the Sister Abigail, Nikki Cross one, where it was just like some creepy screaming. But I thought it was interesting that they did unmask. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they do in the ring. I mean, they got to win, right?
Yeah, of course. And I think I prefer that they're doing this match on Raw where they can kind of get their own spotlight versus SummerSlam where there's going to be a lot of talking points coming out and it
Mm.
might have get kind of overshadowed whatever they do. So I'm excited for this match to happen on Raw. I'm glad that we're finally getting Wyatt Six in action. It's going to answer a lot of people's questions about
Mm.
what can we expect from this group in ring. Now, from what I saw last night, I'm actually really pumped for what we could see the Wyatt Six do in ring. I thought they had a really cool double team move with the power
Mm.
bomb onto
Yeah.
both people. They're doing like the Uranagi's tribute to Bray Wyatt. That was one of his signature moves. I think they could really do something special in the ring, and this kind of removed some of the doubts I had about what this would look like in a match setting.
Mm.
So very much looking forward to that. You mentioned the Dexter Loomis VHS tape. Again, we know Dexter Loomis isn't someone who talks a lot, but when you have this back to back with the Nikki Cross one, that she didn't talk that much in that one either. It was kind of a bit underwhelming in comparison to like the Eric Rowan one, which was super
Right.
emotional, and the Bo Dallas one, which was another like really captivating VHS segment. I feel like these ones are kind of treading water, but it does leave an opening for Joe Gacy to absolutely steal the show in his VHS tape, which we'll hopefully get next week.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the VHH tapes have kind of run their course for me. I'm kind of bored of them already. I want to see what the next development in the story is. I will say, I want to give a little bit of credit to Chad Gable. I thought he's very funny. I like the whole. By the way, I figured out who the three people are after they unmasked. Um, I thought that was really funny. One
And
of
then
my
Adam Pierce being like, yeah, they're under contract. Like, why? This is news. I do like that kind of blend between like he's kind of in this delusional world, and Adam Pierce is like, no, 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 this is the reality of the situation. Like, they're wrestlers still.
Yeah, kind of off topic, kind of related. I like that they have made GMs over the years not bumbling idiots anymore, and they've like kind of made them like a little bit more legitimate, more serious, like because GMs used to just be like so dumb. So I kind of like the trajectory that's going on. I will say one of my criticisms with this angle as a whole is I don't mind Chad Gable and the Creed brothers being like the center against like the Wyatts, but like I just feel like their whole story with like Otis never really got finished. And I kind of feel like there was so much momentum there and they kind of like brushed it to the side to make room for this. Like I feel like you could have done so much more. Like Otis could have came out of this whole thing as like a real like mid like in like an intercontinental champion or something like that, or in the running for that. And now he's just back down in the mid card.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because even though they have dropped the ball, I 100% agree with you. They have dropped the ball on the Alpha Academy versus Otis, or like the whole breakup of the Alpha
Yeah.
Academy into this new era of the Alpha Academy. I still think Otis can be that guy because based on the reactions he's got in the past 2 weeks, like he's one of the most over guys on the show. He gets great reactions.
Yeah.
The crowd's really into him. I know last week he was in his hometown, but even this week in a crowd that was kind of like 50-50, they were
Mm.
really into the stuff with Otis. So I think there's still room for them to continue this storyline with Otis and Chad Gable. I do think they have lost a lot of momentum by trying to get Chad Gable
Yeah.
quickly involved in the Wyatt Six stuff. But I don't think all hope is lost for Otis. And I think there is a way for him to get to that spot again
Yeah. No,
as that over baby face.
I think Otis is talented enough and is clearly liked enough that, like you said, he like it's not over for him, but like, is he ever going to get a good enough story like he had here, where I don't know, like this was the story it felt like to get him to that next level. But who knows? Maybe they'll pick back up after the Wyatts are done. I don't know, but it just felt weird to shoehorn the Wyatts into all of this in the middle of a developing story, and that's my only really real criticism of the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because like I would be curious to see they would have put the Wyatts up against if they decided to not go with Chad Gable. But there are a lot of people that you can find that have like the similar things that Bo Dallas or Uncle Howdy's going after, like people who've left families, people
Yeah.
who, have done this stuff. There's actually a tease later on with Dakota Kai where she in the background, I think was either an Alexa Bliss on the truck or something like that, or like
Oh.
something with the Wyatt Six in the background.
Oh, interesting.
So
I
I
didn't catch
think,
that.
and there's like a correlation where like Dakota Kai left her family, Damage Control. I don't know if that's like that was just speculation I heard online. And then the other point I'll make about the Dexter Loomis video real quick was that he had the X over his forehead, which people have correlated with like Charles Manson and that whole thing. Also a bit of a Rob Zombie X kind of tribute, which I kind of enjoy. I'm a big Dracula fan. I'll listen
Oh,
to that
okay. I
song
didn't
all
know that
day.
about you. I'm learning
But
so much.
but there you go.
I'm
Uh
excited to see Alexa Bliss come back if that's what the case, because we have not seen her in a while. She's been pregnant and have had a child and got married, and she's been busy, very busy. So I'd be excited to see her back. Is she the sixth person in the Wyatt Six, or is that Bray Wyatt?
I would be fine. Like that's the thing. Like you could go either way. If they want to make her the sixth person, great. If they want to just say Bray Wyatt is the sixth person in spirit, I'm also cool with that.
Mhm.
I don't think they have to rush to bring in Alexa Bliss anytime soon because they still need to kind of establish like the roles in the group
Yeah.
and kind of what this group is before an Alexa Bliss being added would have any sort of significance.
And what's the difference between her and the Nikki Cross character? That's the biggest thing, because you can't have the two of the same thing.
Exactly.
All right, and then also on the show, we continue the Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan love triangle. Liv Morgan had a backstage vignette where she destroyed the Judgment Day locker room, but then also she was talking about like over a fire about how Dominic Mysterio wasn't the man she thought he was. Again, same kind of copy and paste what I said about the Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre CM Punk stuff. Like it didn't do anything to raise my excitement for this match. It kind of feel like it just kind of placated it, but it was fine.
Yeah, it was kind of like another like lateral move for my excitement in the
Yeah.
Liv Rhea Dom storyline. The biggest thing to come out of this, dude, they burned the PS5. Can you believe
Oh
that?
no,
Ridiculous.
that is
Carlito
ridiculous.
was totally not cool with that. Tried to get things sorted out later. We saw him end up with him in a match with Jey Uso,
Yeah.
and which had another great moment where Jey Uso speared Carlito and he spit out the apple. I thought that was kind of a fun little thing. If
Mm.
in a Raw episode where there's kind of a lot of just kind of okay, I get it, I get it. That was kind of
Yeah.
a fun little moment that we got there, and I'm curious to see how Carlito ends up in this. Feel like he's not long for the
Yeah.
Judgment Day. Another thing people have been pointing out when Liv trashed the Judgment Day room, the Judgment Day area, there was X's all over the Judgment Day members except Finn Balor,
Oh,
which tie
interesting.
which ties into Finn Balor taking the hotel room key months ago. So I feel like something's brewing there. I'm curious to see if we get a resolution to that at SummerSlam or if it's something that will happen later down the line. But I think it's got people talking and being like, okay, this Finn Balor thing might actually have some weight to it.
So what do we think happens? So Finn and Liv get together. Does Dom stay with Rhea, or is it Finn and Liv versus Rhea and Damien? Where's Dom playing in this?
I think Dom and Rhea, we'll get more into this for our predictions, but I do think Dom and Rhea will still end up they'll be an item. I think they're fully like back together
Mhm.
in this scenario. I don't see Dom going back over to Liv's side, or I don't see there being like a Rhea Dom split,
Yeah.
at least in the current moment.
Right. Okay. Um, and then we also had their main event of the night, which was Gunther versus Finn Balor. Very shocked to learn this is the first time they had ever wrestled each other, especially both being European. Great match as expected, two of the best in the world. Gunther gets the win as he should, heading into SummerSlam as the number one contender. Yeah, I mean, again, like I'm excited for this match, but how does Finn play into the finish? I think he does, and we'll get to it, I guess.
I think he'll get involved in either match or maybe both. He might be
Yeah,
it might be a whole thing with the Judgment Day going throughout SummerSlam. I do like this new presentation of Damian Priest where he's like just going after Gunther. Still not completely. They mentioned it on the show too, the rich versus poor thing.
Yeah.
Still not really buying that, but
Yeah.
I do
Picking
like
at
Damian
straws.
Priest, his aggression. I think that's how you book Damian Priest as this baby face. I'm curious to see what happens with Damian Priest in the Judgment Day going into SummerSlam and coming out of SummerSlam, as we'll get to shortly in our predictions.
Cool. Anything else from Monday Night Raw or SmackDown this week you want to touch on?
Not really. Again, Bloodline on SmackDown becoming the number one contenders for the tag team titles.
Yep.
I think that's clear. I can't see DIY holding on to those titles for long if the Bloodline's going after
See,
them.
I'm a little confused about it because they did just put the titles on DIY, and it would be very unlike Triple H to give them such a short reign.
Yeah, I think. Well, here's the thing. I think short reigns aren't necessarily like a bad thing on the whole. I think again, if you're going to do a short reign, there has to be a reason behind it, and they
Right.
have been on SmackDown slowly teasing Ciampa Gargano getting back and reigniting their NXT feud from
Right.
all those years back. So I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of starts the uh feud for them, or like that's kind of like the
Right.
first domino to fall in that feud.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I think Fatu and Tamatonga will win the titles, but I don't think it's going to be this Friday. I think they're going to hold
Is the
off.
match happening this Friday,
It's
or
on
is it
SmackDown, yeah.
okay? So yeah, that is interesting. I can see them because I would love to see like it be like a series where like DIY
Yes.
is like trying to get their titles back and they're like trying over and over again. And then ultimately it blows off in this like huge, like no DQ or like kind of street fight match
Yeah.
where then Bloodline finally get that like just the definitive end of the feud kind of win over DIY. And then that's when you start the Ciampa Gargano stuff.
I will say, I do think it's interesting. I don't know if he's hurt or what, but I think it speaks to how little the company thinks of Tangaloa. That like he had a built-in tag team with his legitimate brother, and they chose to not put him in the as the number one contender. Chose to put Jacob Fatu in there, which I guess makes sense because Fatu's the bigger star, but still, like I don't know, that said something to me.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of negativity towards Tongaloa.
Yeah,
There was a lot of negativity before he came back to WWE, and then with the Money in the Bank thing where he low blowed and it was really bad.
yeah.
And
Didn't
he
he
also
hit?
like, yeah, he hit his own partner, I think, or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, it did not look good.
No, did not. So that's interesting. I bet because like, what do they do with him? Because he hasn't wrestled. He wasn't on Money in the Bank. You know, he was part. He was the only one not in that triple threat, the 6-man tag. I don't know what they do with him. But anyway, let's get into the people who are wrestling. Let's get into our SummerSlam predictions. I guess let's start with Rhea versus Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship. This has been probably the biggest story-driven match, one of the biggest story-driven matches on the card. I believe that I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I think Liv Morgan is walking out of SummerSlam still women's world champion. What say you?
I think that's kind of that would be the most logical conclusion out of SummerSlam. It is official now, by the way. We are not getting the custody of Dom match.
Oh, missed
Everyone
opportunity.
for months,
Not
people were
yet.
saying that was the direction. Yeah, maybe on.
Yeah.
You never know. Maybe Miz as the SummerSlam host will add that stipulation on last minute. Who knows? But I'm gonna say that that's not going to be the case. I think it's going to be a singles match here, Liv and Rhea, and I do think after all the work that Liv has done over the past few months to make herself like a really big star in the women's division, it would kind of be lame if Rhea just destroyed her and won the
Yeah.
championship back. I think there's going to be, I think that's where the Finn Balor thing comes into play because if that is true, like all the speculation about Finn Balor somehow being involved with
Yeah.
Liv, then I think it's more likely it plays out in this match than in the Damian Priest and Gunther match. Not that it can't play out in both, but I do think if you were to pick one or the other, I see it happening in this match because ultimately be something to the benefit of Liv Morgan. And I think that's more important than to the detriment of Damian
Yeah.
Priest.
I think a lot of it has to do with which match actually closes SummerSlam. If it's Gunther Priest, if it's Cody Solo.
Oh,
Because
I think, hold on. I think it's definitely Cody Solo. Are you kidding me? I don't think it's an argument.
really, I think there it is an argument. Why do you think it's definitely Cody Solo?
Who's coming out at the end?
Oh,
You
gotcha.
got come on. Even if he's not, like you have to have people think that he is
Right.
for this to work. So I think it's got to be Cody Solo at the end. Also, it's the biggest championship. I know you want to bump up the World Heavyweight Championship, but we'll get into it with the Damian Priest and Gunther match. I think at the next pay-per-view, that's when you do the World Heavyweight Championship main event.
Got it. Got it. All right. I agree with you now. All right. So official predictions, we're both saying Liv Morgan is going to retain the title. I
Lock
think
it in.
lock it in. I don't think it's clean though. I think there's some shenanigans here, and Liv Morgan capitalizes off some help to win
By the
the
way,
title.
you know what it means when we both lock it in. That means Rhea's going to win the title.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's what happened last time. So
yeah, so we'll
All
see.
right. Coming up next, we have Logan Paul defending the United States Championship against the megastar LA Knight. Yeah. Uh, this is his moment, right? This is the moment we finally give a title to LA Knight. He won the Slim Jim Battle Royal a year ago, and they've done nothing. So he's
What a
got
moment.
what a moment. He's gotta win the title, right?
You would think this might be surprising. I don't know if it's a top rope take, or maybe a little spicy take. I think this is the hardest match to predict. I think this is the
Really?
hardest match to call because I mean, I think it should definitely be LA Knight. I think Logan Paul's kind of done
Yeah.
his thing with the US title. He's had a solid run with it. He's got some big matches out of it, but I think you don't really need Logan Paul with the US championship. Whereas
Yeah.
LA Knight, this is kind of you're right, it's his moment. He needs that singles championship. And it's also something where I think if he loses this match, people are going to lose a lot of faith in LA Knight in the booking because it's like, where do we go from here? Like, he
Right.
clearly, they don't see him as a world title guy. They don't even see him as a mid card championship guy. Like, what is this guy going to do? So I'm hoping for LA Knight. I could just also, they love having that title on Logan Paul, and it's in Cleveland, his hometown. I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to get like super cheered or anything like that, but I do think there's some influence that Logan Paul might have where I could see him winning this match. And then maybe I really just hope that's not the case. But I think Triple H kind of,
Mhm.
he's got a little boop for Logan Paul. So I could see it happening where Logan Paul retains and then we just get more Logan Paul. And he could even break the United States Championship record for all I know. Like
I
that
think
might
that
be where they're going with this.
you said something to me last week that has stuck with me, and that it has changed my way of thinking about wrestling booking. And you had said about booking for the rematch. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I never really like thought of it like that. If you were booking for the rematch, Logan Paul's got to win, right? To give LA Knight a bigger moment, like at what Bash at Berlin or something like that.
See, that's the thing. Like definitely want to book for the rematch. The question is, does WWE want the rematch
Right.
with Logan Paul and LA Knight? Like I think if they were like I think if either way, if Logan Paul retains, LA Knight wins, I think this is a one off. Like
Yeah.
I don't see this being like a rematch. I think there's other stuff where you could definitely book for the rematch, like Punk and McIntyre we'll get into.
Mhm.
Um, but I think this one, if Logan Paul wins, I think you got to move on to a new challenger. That's kind of the only reason why I think Logan Paul's win. I just think WWE sees Logan Paul as the star where they would want
Yes.
someone bigger than LA Knight to defeat Logan Paul for that championship. Maybe but who knows? But I do think regardless, it's either LA Knight's moment or you have someone big beat Logan Paul.
Yeah. You've convinced me that this is the hardest match to predict, but I'm still going to go and officially say I think LA Knight is winning the United States Championship.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with my heart here. I'm gonna go LA Knight. Yeah.
Yeah. All righty. Moving on, we have Bailey defending the WWE Women's Championship against the Queen of the Ring, Nia Jax, who has assumingly Tiffany Stratton in her corner. Um, I don't see them putting the title on Nia. I don't know. I think Nia and Tiffany kind of will go into the women's tag division from here, is my guess. And
Not a bad shout. I think that I could see that.
just to give them something to do while Tiffany holds on to the briefcase. So I am officially going to go Bailey winning and retaining her title.
All right. Well, this is our first disagreement here because I
All
actually
right.
think Nia Jax is taking this one home. And it has less to do with like Nia Jax as champion. Although I do think Nia Jax having the championship and Tiffany Stratton having Money in the Bank will make for a good dynamic
Yes.
between the two. It's kind of like what they teased last year. Like if Finn Balor had won the world championship and you had Damian Priest as Money in the Bank.
Mhm.
I see it kind of a similar thing, but I do think Nia Jax could end up with the win here. I think it has to do more with this Bailey title run. I just think it's kind of been,
Boring.
yeah, mediocre.
Yeah.
Just kind of, I don't think Bailey's really stood out. This is kind of like the least interested I've been in Bailey in a really long time because I was really high on her during the pandemic era, and I thought
Yeah.
she was doing great stuff with Damage Control when she came back. I just think once she disbanded from Damage Control, won the title, she kind of hasn't been that interesting. Whereas Nia Jax has improved greatly since her return, and she's been
Yeah.
the most interesting she's been in WWE for a long time. So I think they put the title on Nia Jax. You already have a built-in story with Tiffany Stratton. Whereas with Bailey, it's kind of like, where do you go from here? Like you'd have to have
Yeah.
something big happen. Or like I just think it makes more sense if you have Nia Jax as champion and then you have challengers like Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill waiting in the wings. That
Right.
fits better for them to challenge versus Bailey and who's the heels on SmackDown who's going to go after. Tiffany Stratton's obviously
Yeah.
a possibility, but she's already got Money in the Bank. So I think, and I don't think she's cashing in, by the way, on this match.
No, I don't think so either. I think there's too much going on this show. She might
Yeah.
try. I don't think
I
it'll
think
be
there'll definitely
successful.
be a tease, 100%. But I think at the end of the day, Nia Jax walks out with the women's championship.
It's not a bad call. And this just, yeah, again, this could, yeah, you're right. I mean, you definitely made a good case. I think Nia could win it. I, yeah, I don't know. Bailey's been, what does it say about Bailey that every time she's been a babyface, she's been boring on the main
I,
roster? And
yeah, on the main roster, it's tough because like she could be a great baby face, but I think when she made the heel turn and then tried to turn back face, she didn't really carry those qualities that made her a great baby face
yeah,
on NXT with her in her baby face turn on the main roster. I just don't think I think she still carries some of that heel aura around her,
yeah.
even though she's a baby face and, supposed to be someone we root for. I think at this point it would be more interesting for her as a character to drop this title than to hold on to it.
I just had a thought, and it
Okay.
may have just convinced me. So you know what this SmackDown women's division really needs? It needs the queen back. And I'm not talking the queen of the
Mm,
ring.
okay.
I
Interesting.
think I think right there, if Nia Jax does win the women's title and parades herself, she's been calling herself the queen of the ring. I think that gives some runway for Queen Charlotte to return. And maybe that's the next program we see from Nia and Charlotte, which could then eventually bleed into Charlotte and Tiffany, which is the money match.
Yeah. Also, that just reminded me. I felt like we're supposed to get Tiffany and Trish Stratus on this show. No? Like, did they tease that
Yeah,
at Money in the Bank and they kind of just
they definitely
dropped it?
teased that. I don't know. I mean, maybe at a later date. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe Tiffany Stratton. I mean, maybe Trish Stratus will make a run it.
No, maybe.
No
You never
shot,
know.
but
But I could see that happening some point down the line. Maybe they face off at the Royal Rumble, maybe
yeah,
WrestleMania if Tiffany's not doing anything. So I think that's still in the wings, but I just thought because they teased it so heavily on Money in the Bank
yeah.
that we would get it at SummerSlam.
I would be okay with getting Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton before WrestleMania, and then getting Tiffany and Trish at WrestleMania.
Yeah. But that's a good call though. I do like that. Might be a top rope take right there with Charlotte coming back. But
Mm.
because yeah, Charlotte's like ready to go. I don't know if Charlotte's like ready to go, but she's definitely gonna come back sooner than later. And you're right, the Queen of the Ring, Queen Charlotte, like
And she's coming
it's
back as a
right
baby
there.
face, right? Like, there's no way she's coming back as a heel.
Yeah. You could go either way with it, but I think she'll come back as babyface. And let's
All
just
right.
hope it works.
Let's hope it works. Yeah, because I know some people already have Charlotte fatigue, but I like Charlotte. All right, moving on for the Intercontinental Championship, Sami Zayn in the rematch, defending the Intercontinental title against Braun Breaker. Well, we were both wrong at Money in the Bank. So I guess, are we going to double down or are we going
We
to
got to double down, Jason. It
let
cannot happen again. It cannot happen again. Braun Breaker needs to win this title. Please. I am begging you. Please, Braun Breaker, just win. Please.
My money's on
Oh,
Ilya Dragunov to make a.
yeah, he'll make a run in
Yeah.
somehow, win it. Oh,
Yeah.
man. I just can't. Like, I love Sami Zayn. I think Sami Zayn's awesome. But,
I
like,
think their title run's been great.
title run's been great, and he got his win over Braun Breaker. So you still have Sami Zayn looking strong at some point in his feud. You didn't completely destroy Sami Zayn,
Right.
but Braun Breaker needs to win.
Yeah.
We are locking it like
Yes.
padlocked, double
Yes.
chains over it. Braun Breaker winning the Intercontinental Championship, and I would prefer it to be in a squash, like I mentioned
Yes.
before, similar to the Cena Lesnar match. But as long as he wins, as long as he just gets the title, I'll be happy.
Copy and paste what I said about this match at Money in the Bank here.
Yeah.
It's going to be a competitive match, but at the end, Braun's going to squash him and win the Intercontinental title. And then, after the fact, Sammy is reuniting with Jey Uso, and they're going after the Raw tag titles.
Yeah, they already have kind of a storyline set up for Sami Zayn post Intercontinental Championship. So I feel like now that that's been established, we could definitely move on with this Braun Breaker Intercontinental Championship win, and let's just get him on that rocket, send him to the moon.
Is Jey Uso the biggest star not on SummerSlam?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it depends on who you like. Are you talking full time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I'm just surprised that they didn't find anything for him, which I think speaks to kind of like, I don't, not the booking, but like, what do you do with Jey Uso?
Yeah, there's not really like an obvious match for him right now, but I think he could play a part. Hey, he could play a part in this Sami Zayn Braun Breaker match for all I know.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about who's the biggest star to be left off the card. I think you could make an argument for Bianca and Jade.
Oh, true.
But they're kind of like they've kind of lost some steam.
They have their SummerSlam match this coming SmackDown for the tag titles against Isla and I don't even know her name.
Alba Fire.
Alba Fire. There you go. Yeah.
So they have that. That's kind of similar to like Gable and the Creeds versus Wyatt Six, where they have that's like their SummerSlam match, but just on the show after.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because Jay doesn't even have that. Like Jay doesn't even have like a SummerSlam type match on one of the main shows. Yeah, I'll be curious to see if Jey Uso gets involved in this match, or
he's kind of been loosely tied in with the Bria stuff.
Oh yeah, I could see like if Finn Balor gets involved, like in the live stuff, does Jey Uso come out because like maybe Dom's been neutralized at that point, and so Finn clearly has the upper hand. Jey Uso tries to even things out, but maybe ends up costing Rhea on accident. I don't know if they go. I don't think they go full bore with that storyline at SummerSlam. Like, I don't know if Jey Uso's involvement is that prominent in that storyline for them to involve Jey Uso. But yeah, that's a good point. I think we'll have to see what happens with Jey Uso if he gets involved at all.
The tag champions are Finn and JD. So if he's going to work with Sammy, he's going to be continuing against the Judgment Day.
I guess that's true. Yeah, you could have that be the connection there, and then that continues the stuff with Finn Balor and Judgment Day.
All right, so we are doubling down. Braun Breaker is winning the Intercontinental title for real this time at SummerSlam.
For real.
All right, now we go to our three big matches. Let's go for the world title, Damian Priest defending against the King of the Ring, El Ring General, Gunther. You already know where I'm going with this. I actually think this is my take. I think Gunther wins a world title, and I think it's clean, no interference. I think this opens the show because I've noticed a Triple H booking is the opening, like the main event closes, and then the second biggest match opens the card. And so I think this opens SummerSlam I think no interference from the Judgment Day. Gunther wins clean, and I think that will be Finn's excuse to interfere later in the night to keep the world to get keep help Liv keep the world title.
Interesting. I do like the idea of this match happening before Liv and Rhea. I think there's also a good chance that Punk and Drew could open, but we'll get to that.
Yes.
Uh, I think Gunther's going to win, but this is the thing. Here's where I'm struggling a bit. And this is why I struggled with Logan Paul LA Knight. If Gunther wins, and I also have Nia winning, and I also think Braun Breaker's going to win, and LA Knight wins, that's 4 championship changes on the show.
I don't hate that.
I don't hate it either, but that's like, when was the last time something like that happened? That usually happens on like a WrestleMania over 2 nights, or like that doesn't happen that often. Maybe Night of Champions at one point had something like that.
But here's the thing: SummerSlam is the summer WrestleMania. It's the second biggest show of the year. You are building these matches and these storylines because you are changing. You know, like these are your big matches. It often leads to like a changing of the card.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I think I wouldn't mind it. Like that's the thing. I'm booking these as if like I was the booker and like who I would want to see win. So obviously I'm picking Gunther because I think Gunther's got to win this title. And like I mentioned before, that's why I think you could get away with this match not being the main event, because clearly Bash at Berlin, I think that spot goes to Gunther. And you got to do Gunther as champion in that case. So I think Gunther wins. I think it's clean. I hope it's clean. I don't think, but I think I could also see some shenanigans going down to try to protect Damian Priest and all of this, because they really do like Damian Priest. But I think it's just Gunther's just such a top tier talent, and he's clearly, if they want to continue the momentum that they've been building for him for the past 2 years, you give him this big world heavyweight championship.
When's the last time he's lost?
SummerSlam.
He doesn't really lose ever.
Just Sami Zayn, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then before that, it was like when he was in NXT, he lost to, I think they mentioned Braun Breaker.
Right.
So he does not lose often, and I don't see him losing to Damian Priest.
This is my take for how this plays out. Like I said, I think Gunther beats Priest clean for the title at SummerSlam. I think Finn gets involved with Liv. I think after SummerSlam, they're going to build to a rematch at Bash in Berlin. In the meantime, I think Finn is essentially placating the Judgment Day and Damian Priest and being like, I'm still on your side. I had to do what I had to do for Liv because he screws over Rhea. And then I think we get the full heel turn from Finn Balor. Well, because he is a heel. But we get the full Finn Balor screws over Damian Priest at Bash in Berlin.
Like the full-on breakup of the Judgment Day. Like there'll still be like tension from SummerSlam to Bash at Berlin, but then they finally dissolve.
Yeah.
At Bash at Berlin. That's interesting. I could also see triple threat: Priest, Balor, Gunther, Bash at Berlin.
Possibly. I just think Priest and Balor need their own story.
Yeah, and I think that would be that's just one way if you want to kind of, because then they could kind of screw each other out of trying to dethrone Gunther. You kind of get a little more drama, because I think there's not going to be much drama if it's just a Gunther singles match against Damian Priest.
Right.
People will just be like, oh yeah, Gunther's just going to retain. But I think you have it's a little interesting having Balor in the mix to be like, well, Gunther doesn't have to be pinned technically. So we could, and if Finn Balor's got a nice full head of steam after SummerSlam, then maybe, and it's in, it's in Europe as a country. So yeah, I guess, WWE, they might just be like, yeah, we could go crazy with it.
Yeah.
So, but I do think at the end of the day, bottom line, Gunther beats Damian Priest, wins the championship.
Absolutely agree. Up next, we have CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as a special guest referee.
Woo!
I know this is your most anticipated match on the card. Probably this is the most anticipated match for most people. Tough one to call, but I really do think they are doing a SummerSlam 97 finish. Maybe not, exactly. They're not, maybe there's no chair involved, but I do think for his first big pay-per-view singles match back, you got to give the win to CM Punk. You got to continue the storyline that Drew's getting screwed by Seth, but by somebody. And I'm not sure exactly how it happens, but I'm very confident CM Punk is walking out of SummerSlam the winner.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I just real quick, I mentioned this is my most anticipated match. You said it's the most anticipated match for most people. Is it your most anticipated match at SummerSlam?
I think from the story perspective, yes, but from a match perspective, I want to see Gunther win the world title more.
Okay. So you think Gunther and Damian Priest will have a better match
I'm more of a
than
Gunther fan than I am like a
okay.
CM Punk or Drew McIntyre fan.
Okay, that's fair. Hey, it's your opinion.
Yeah.
And also there's a lot of question marks. I think this is coming from a CM Punk fan. There's a lot of question marks about CM Punk's in-ring capabilities at this point in his career.
Yes.
So, but I do think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that will be had in this match with Seth Rollins being involved as a special guest referee. I think there's going to be, even if the quality of like the moves and stuff isn't like 100% perfect, I think just the storyline aspect and just the different spots they can do with Seth being involved, and also just how heated this feud has been between Punk and McIntyre. There's a lot of interesting things that can go down. And it's another one that's tough to call. I do think, even though I said last week I can't envision Seth Rollins counting the three for CM Punk, I think it does make the storyline more intriguing if he does do that, because then Punk will just always have that dangling carrot over Seth Rollins, just kind of like, hey, you counted the three for me. Like, I don't know. But I thought it was also interesting. We didn't mention this on the Raw recap where Punk said, I don't want your help. Like, I never needed your help. I don't want your help in this match, Rollins. So I wonder if something inadvertent will happen where Rollins will like hurt McIntyre when Punk's not looking, and then Punk makes the cover, Seth counts it, but then he actually did end up needing Rollins to defeat McIntyre, but he didn't even realize it in the moment until after, and then that just makes him angry because now he's like, I didn't beat Drew the way I wanted to beat Drew. And then Seth could still have some remorse about maybe hurting McIntyre in that moment and counting the three for Punk. So
yeah, I definitely think it could be either, and if maybe not like a chair shot to the head, obviously, because they don't do that anymore. Could just be like a super kick aimed for Punk that like Punk ducks and hits McIntyre, and then GTS whatever.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways you can go about it. I also wouldn't be mad. Like, there's scenarios where Drew wins, and I wouldn't be upset. That could drive the story forward. That's why I think this is the most interesting match, because it really can go either way. But I think it like you said, it does make sense for Punk to win in his first match back in WWE.
All right, so we're aligned again. I feel like we've only been
just the Nia one,
just the Nia Bailey. Okay.
And I'm still not 100%. Like, I might switch on the LA Knight Logan Paul thing because I still am suspicious about the amount of title changes, but I'm just going with my heart there.
Yeah. And then lastly, we have Cody Rhodes defending the WWE Championship against the new tribal chief, Solo Sikoa.
I'm only going halfway.
All right, that's fair. You're only going half chub. Copy.
Yeah. Half chub on the new tribal
chief. Yeah.
Not fully.
Not full chub. Cody's winning. There's no shot Solo.
I didn't mean to derail your pick there. But yeah, Cody. I think Cody's gonna win as well. I think, but there is a chaotic timeline where you do give Solo the title.
No,
I think would be
he's
interesting.
Not good enough for this title. He's not even good enough for this spot. If Jacob Fatu signed 6 months earlier, Jacob Fatu would be in this spot.
It's a fair point. And I think we'll get to a point a year from now where we're like, yeah, remember when Solo Sikoa was just like, they were go rocking with him as the tribal chief.
Yeah.
And like how absurd that is now that we have Jacob Fatu being an absolute beast.
Yeah.
But I do think Cody, I think the bigger question with this match is, does Roman Reigns return, and how does Roman Reigns return if this is the spot where he decides to show up?
I feel like in recent history, they like to have returns at the end of pay-per-views. So I could see it, but I don't think it needs it. I really don't. Because whenever Roman shows up, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think, again, you're at a stadium. So if you want to do the Roman return in a stadium, you don't really get that opportunity too often. You won't get that opportunity until Royal Rumble, which also, if they really wanted to wait that long, that would be pretty electric if you had Roman at number 30 or something.
Oh, I don't think we'll be in the Rumble. But
no, I don't think he's returning at the Rumble, period. But I think if they wanted to wait till the Rumble, it would be kind of spicy. I
I'm
do.
not the
Yeah.
most intriguing thing for me in this match is not who wins, it's what do they do after the fact.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think Roman's got to return. Because if Cody wins against Solo and Roman doesn't return and Roman doesn't get involved in the match, this new bloodline thing sucks. Like this whole thing is garbage because
Yeah.
like they've been dominate, and then just Cody just wins, and then it has nothing to do with Roman, and now we just gotta, I guess, hold out till Roman until whatever. Like I would put no stock in this new bloodline if Cody just wins clean
Mm.
and that's the end of the show. I
So
think Roman has to get in. I think Roman shows up and I think Roman is somehow involved in the match. Where I know you said they like to end with SummerSlam and returns. I still think it would be interesting if Cody wins clean and then you have Roman come out. But I think the most interesting option that keeps this new bloodline kind of hot and kind of the momentum going for them is if Roman interferes somehow in this match, even if it's just a distraction with the music.
so I hear you. I just don't think that's in Roman's character to like be like a distraction type heel. I think Cody
Well, he's not
win.
a heel. I don't think he's coming back as a heel, right?
No, 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 no. But like
Okay.
he's still he's like a tweener at this point.
Okay.
I do think Cody wins clean. I really do. And I think after the fact, you could have um the bloodline be like attacking Cody after the match, right? Roman's music hits. Everybody's in shock. Big moment. Roman gets into the ring after the match. And I think you could have him look like he's going to side with the bloodline and attack Cody, which would make sense. And then I think he turns on Solo and the bloodline. That's how you
Interesting.
end SummerSlam.
That I would be down with that. If you want more chaotic booking,
Mm.
you have Roman Reigns like reveal that he has been
The
in
higher
contact with
power.
Solo, and then he has actually acknowledged Solo as the new tribal chief, and now that would get the momentum back on the new bloodline side, even if it's just for a little bit. Like it would be an
Yeah.
interesting story to have Roman come back and at first side with the bloodline. I think it would be a
I
little
don't hate
interesting
it.
thing.
I
But
think it's been
I do
even,
think
but
ultimately the more likely thing, I do like what you're saying though, where he teases that and everyone's like,
mm,
oh, you still get that, oh shit,
mm,
like is
mm,
Roman really gonna team with Solo, and then he just attacks him anyway.
yeah.
Uh, but I also wouldn't mind if they ran a little mini storyline with Roman back involved with the bloodline, because then it
Mm,
has a lot of questions. Like, so did he signal
right.
Paul Heyman getting powerbombed through the table? Did he get
Mm,
signaled Jimmy getting kicked out? So it would be an interesting little wrinkle in the story.
mm.
The logic behind it might be a little iffy, but wouldn't mind it. I think there again, it's another scenario where a lot of things can play out, but I just think within the match itself, if Roman's not involved, it's just going to be like Cody wins,
Yeah.
and that's
Where does
that.
Cody go from here?
Uh, Orton,
I guess so.
Apex Predator. I think yeah, you could go. There's really not that many outside of the bloodline. Really, not that many options
Yeah.
unless you turn someone heel like Randy or KO. Because this was brought up. I forget where this was brought up, but the idea that if Roman came in to help Cody,
Mm-hmm.
the face that you could turn heel coming out of all that is actually Kevin Owens, because he, even though you're putting Roman in the face category, Kevin Owens still just does not like Roman Reigns. He still
Right.
has all that animosity over the years of trying to take down the bloodline.
Yeah.
So I think you could flip it that way. Like he attacks Cody, being like, why are you siding with, why are you all of a sudden cool with Roman? Like he's still done all this horrible thing. So it's like
Yeah.
kind of like a justified heel,
And
which I
Cody
always
allowed
think,
both him and Randy get attacked by the bloodline. And
yeah. And like, I just think the best heels are just, I feel like Kevin Owens plays the justified heel role really
really
well.
well.
Like
Yeah.
I think he's a compelling character when he's a justified heel. So I wouldn't mind that aspect too. You go Cody, KO. I'm trying to think who else is really on SmackDown who could
It's
go
literally
after
been those
Cody.
three. Oh, you know who? Logan Paul.
Well, they already did that.
Then do it again.
Without I'm kind of yeah, they could do it, but nah.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, I don't know.
so I think yeah, I'm curious to see where Cody
Santos
goes.
Escobar.
Exactly. Like Carmelo Hayes, the next
Mm.
challenger or something like that. Maybe
Andrade. I don't know. There's nobody. There's a lot of mid carders.
yeah, they need Cena back in this picture sooner. Maybe we get the retirement tour started early.
Maybe.
we get, but yeah, I am interested to see where Cody goes. I think ultimately you're either going to get Orton or KO turning and going after Cody.
Yeah, I agree. Alrighty. That is our official SummerSlam predictions. Any final thoughts on that before we move on to our AEW portion of the show?
Looking forward to it. I hope that there's a lot of cool twists and turns. Like there's a lot of possibilities
Mm-hmm.
for interesting storylines to evolve, which I think is what SummerSlam's all about. It's kind of like this middle point of like you could kickstart WrestleMania storylines
Right.
at SummerSlam. We've seen that in
Right.
the past. So there's a lot of things that can go down. I hope they just don't I hope they don't fall into like, okay, well, it's SummerSlam, we got big matches. We can just play these matches straight and then people will just have to tune in to see what happens. I
Right.
hope we do get some cool moments at
I
SummerSlam.
think we will. I have faith in Triple H. Alrighty, let's talk AEW real quick. We had Blood and Guts this past week on AEW Dynamite. It was Team AEW comprised of the acclaimed Darby Allin, Mark Briscoe, and the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland versus the Elite, which was the Young Bucks, Kazuchika Okada, Jack Perry, and a very, very angry Hangman Adam Page. It was a chaotic match, to say the least, but in the end, Team AEW wins when Darby Allin threatens to set Jack Perry on fire, and Matt Jackson quits for Team the Elite. Um, I made my complaints last week, so I don't need to reiterate them. I don't think this match was necessary, but it was fun for what it was.
Yeah, I thought it was weird because there's a lot of great moments and spots within the Blood and Guts. I really just think this finish was so lackluster and so
Yeah,
anticlimactic. Like the idea, like I'm going to
they
set him
should
on
have.
fire. If you want, you give me a TNT Championship match,
Yeah,
I'm still going to set him on fire. And then it's like you better quit that. It's like that combined with the heels having like remorse for
mm.
the, like other like I feel like if you really want to get a heel over, you could be like, yeah, set him on fire. Like we
Yeah,
actually don't
right.
care about
Yeah,
Jet. Like
right.
I would be like, holy, like screw you. Like this is a
Yeah,
person. Like so
yeah.
for it's him being like actually showing like some care, that's like a face quality, and I feel
Mhm.
like they're so newly heels or like this is such a new heel act
Yeah,
that they didn't really need to be showing remorse towards each other. I still think I feel like the last few Blood and Guts have kind of been anticlimactic finishes
yeah.
that really don't like propel the feud forward.
No,
Like I think they had a really interesting one when Claudio tapped out. I think it was like Matt Menard or something in the Blood and Guts like a few years ago when Eddie Kingston was trying to tap out Jericho. But
mhm.
then like I felt like they could have done or they kind of did. They with Eddie and Claudio kind of not liking each other even though they're on the same team. And
Yeah.
that kind of drove that story. And everyone's like, come on, Eddie, we won the match. Like we should be excited. Eddie's like, no, I wanted to make Chris Jericho tap out. I thought that was like the only real interesting Blood and Guts finish that they've had. The other ones have kind of been like Chris Jericho falling into boxes in the first one and
Mhm.
uh this one especially with just them being like, "Oh, I
Just gonna set a
surrender.
guy on fire.
Yeah, we'll give you the title match, but we're also still going to surrender." And that's that. And
Yeah.
it sucks cuz I actually liked some of the stuff in the middle of the match that drove stories like with Swerve and Hangman, where Hangman
Yeah.
came out late and then handcuffed Swerve, and then Matt Jackson was like, "You got to get in the ring or you're fired," and Hangman's like,
Yeah.
"I'm fine." And then they sort of set up the Hangman Okada stuff that I think we'll get at All In. We kind of speculated before. I think that is the All In match. It's gonna be Hangman and
This
Okada.
just furthers what I said last week. Brian Danielson being in the main event feels so out of place.
Yeah, and also I think, we'll get to this because or we could get to it now. With Rampage, they did the Royal Rampage
Mhm.
for a title shot at Grand Slam, which is after All In, and Darby Allin wins. And they also teased on this Rampage show that there was animosity between Swerve and Darby. Like Darby didn't like that Swerve was too
Yeah.
involved with Hangman. So it's like, even though I was kind of going to suspend my disbelief and like, oh,
Yeah.
Danielson could win this title. Now I'm completely like, oh, Swerve's just going to retain
Yeah.
because I'd see Swerve and Darby as the more heated match for Grand Slam than I'd see Danielson Darby being.
I would much rather have seen Swerve and Hangman with the story, AEW, listen to me, with the story for the title, and give me Brian Okada for whatever reason you want to throw in there.
Yeah, they've had two, like the story's there. They've had two matches. They're one apiece.
Mm.
Have the rubber match it all in.
Yeah, like that just feels like a freaking layup that they missed.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I'm still excited for All In.
Yeah,
I still think Hangman and Okada is going to be really fun.
yeah, for sure.
But you're right. There's stuff that could make more storyline sense, and there seems to only be one big storyline that's kind of got momentum right now for AEW. If you want to get into it,
Yeah, are you talking about the Mariah May Tony Storm?
I wasn't, but that's cool too. I was talking about MJF
Oh,
revealing the American Championship. Dude, this I love this segment. I don't care what anyone says. I absolutely love this segment. Dude, from like him whipping out the championship and then everyone be like USA,
yeah.
USA. He's like, no, I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about Plainview, Long Island, New York. Not even just Long Island, New York
Yeah.
anymore. I love that he's heel. So now he's just specifying Plainview, Long Island, New York. That's what this American Championship is all about. I don't know if you look closely at the design. I got to pull this thing up because I think it just has Will Ospreay's name on the side of it, like better than Will Ospreay or better than the UK or something. It
That's
is
so funny.
so funny, and I thought MJF. It wasn't. I still think MJF like a year or two ago was like when he was heel prior to the face turn.
Mm,
I still think he had a little more venom to him. But this is just kind of like a fun heel
yeah.
MJF, which might not, be everyone's cup of tea. But when he dropped the flag too, and it
Mm,
was the American flag with his face as the 50 stars, I mean, that was just great. And
yeah.
then you had Will Ospreay come out. I hope Will Ospreay uh comes back with a little bit of venom because I think MJF mentioned like his mother
Mm,
dying and be like, I hope you have your dig your grave like a football field away from that lady because she needs all the room she could get. So, like just
yeah.
absolutely brutal
Yeah, his grandmother.
stuff. His grandmother, that's what it was. And so I think this feud has got a lot of heat to it, especially coming off of their 60-minute battle.
Yeah.
And I do like the idea of the American Championship, and also he was like workhorse titles. Like, I think having a guy like MJF is perfect for AEW, where that is kind of the mentality, like the workhorse people,
Yeah.
whatever. He's a great foil for AEW in
Everybody
that
else.
sense.
Yeah.
So I love it. I think this storyline's great, and I am looking forward to their match at All In.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. This is like the second time that the title has been rebranded.
Yeah, exactly. They leveled up when they
Yeah.
made it the all what was it? All
International.
Atlantic was
Yeah.
the name, and then they changed it to International. I
Yeah.
wanted it. They called it the American title. I wanted it to be the All American title, just to kind of throw that in there. That's also like a reference between like when my dad and I play games. We'll have like this made up title. It's called the All American title.
There you go.
I was like, if they introduced that into this storyline, I would
You got
huge
a fan
points.
out of
But
Will.
you know what? American title, love it. I think the design is so over the top, corny
I
that
love
it
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 though.
it, it works.
I think
It works. And someone
I think this
shout
should be
out,
the after the even after MJF
yeah,
drops it. I think this should be the name of the title. I don't think international title does anything. Because you're not defending it internationally. So
you're not. I mean, I think if Will wins it, that's kind of going to be like the point is that he wants
right.
to rename the international title, and I could see Will defending it internationally as well because
Mhm.
when this title first was introduced, like it was being defended internationally. They had Pac defend
Mhm.
it at like different independent shows all
Yeah.
across the globe, and then Orange Cassidy had it, and he defended it on like a Rev Pro show, and he's defended it in different countries. So I think you can have the international championship be international, but I
Yeah.
think with this current belt, like I think MJF should be like, if we're even in Canada, like
Yeah.
no way, no one's getting this title right now.
Right.
So it's just like I'll defend it in America. Not I don't think see him defending it prior to All In, but if he does, it has to be in America.
No, for sure. I agree.
But
All
real
in.
quick, I just want to mention shout out to Alex Queen of the Ring who said this title looks like Lex Luger. So
So
I
true.
100% agree with that.
Does MJF have the Lex Express though? The you?
Oh, you know what? He should add like he should start like going over the top with being like
No, he should do
super
like
American.
the U.S. tour, especially like giving it's like an election year. I actually thought he was about to debut like a politician gimmick almost.
Yeah, well, he had that. That was in I remember in the pandemic he had the MJF for world champ kind of 20
Yeah,
when Moxley was the champion. I really liked that storyline. I thought MJ they could have given MJF the title back then. It would have worked. I'm
I
kind
was
of
like,
glad they waited until a few years later, but I enjoyed all that
this
stuff.
feels like the perfect time. I feel like MJF needs a fresh coat of paint because I think the shtick is getting old. Like he's so good at what he does, but I do think like having him like really go all in on like Mr. America, like the politician, like campaigning across the country for something stupid. Like I think that would be so good.
Yeah, I even enjoyed it on social media. He had a picture with Kurt Angle.
Oh my
It
god,
was great.
so
Um,
good.
so I'm enjoying this stuff. That's kind of my main thoughts on Blood and Guts. You mentioned Mariah May. I'm kind of, I'm waiting for Tony Storm to get back involved in this.
They
I
really
think,
dropped the ball. I said that promo was going to be so huge, and they have done nothing to capitalize on it.
yeah, come on, Shivani.
Yeah, that
Completely
was.
derailing the momentum. But yeah, wasn't too much to note on Dynamite outside of the Blood and Guts match and the MJF stuff. I will say Jericho and Suzuki was very interesting, just a chop fest. Like they
Yeah,
literally that whole match was just them chopping back and forth. And it was actually I thought it was kind of entertaining. I know it's kind of like a guilty pleasure to like what Jericho does at this point. And I kind of haven't been a huge fan of the learning tree stuff, but this one I was kind of like, okay. And I was looking up their age. Like these guys are like 54 and
yeah,
56. So whatever you think about Jericho, whatever you think about Suzuki, these old dudes just chopping, the
yeah.
shit out of each other for, lack of a better phrase. Very entertaining to me and probably the most entertaining thing that's happened out of this whole learning tree
I
thing.
like the learning tree. I'm not a huge fan of uh, Big Bill or Brian Keith. I could do without them, but I think Jericho is great. I think Jericho is so obnoxious with it and a great heel.
100%.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about?
I'm ready to wrap it up. I do have
Yeah.
a plug that I want to put in here though.
Yes, go for it.
Uh, if you guys are interested in listening to me do commentary,
Ooh, I am.
Victory Pro Wrestling has just uploaded VPW 177 onto their YouTube page, The Battle in Bay Shore. So definitely check that out. We got a great card. Main event. We had our champion Bryce Donovan put up the title in a fatal four-way match against Leo Sparrow, who's actually wrestled MJF, and Omos, if you could believe that. And also going up against Eric James, one half of Adrenaline Express, who are a prominent tag team on the independent scene. And of course, my guy, the big boofa, Desmond Cole.
A
So definitely check that out. Great fatal four-way match and just all around a solid show.
I also have something else to plug too as well. That sounds exciting. I'm going to check that out. I recently just did an interview with a guy by the name of Patrick Price, who a lot of you guys may not know. He started off as a wrestler, an independent wrestler in North Carolina, ended up working his way into running the production and the creative for Premier Wrestling Experience, PWX, which was at the time one of the biggest independent wrestling promotions in the entire country. He went on from that to working in production for New Japan and is now a producer and editor for AEW. So I got to sit down and talk to him about his journey in wrestling. So that will be dropping soon. So stay tuned for that. I think it's a must listen for all wrestling fans if you have an interest about the insides of the business and how it all works and how to get your foot in. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, big SummerSlam weekend.
Yeah, we'll definitely be putting it's podcast, right?
Yeah, it's like
Because
an interview. Yeah.
okay, we're gonna put that up on our Instagram at Real Top Rope Take. So definitely
Yep.
go check that out. Of course, if you want to find me on Instagram, Willie.thrill. That's WILLIE.thrill, as you can see below.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, do you want to plug your
Yeah.
socials?
Instagram, I'm JMar320. And then on Instagram, I am Jace B Marcus. First three letters in my first name,
That was
BMARCUS.
that's for X or
Yeah, for
okay.
X. Excuse me. You know what I meant.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. And then of course, if you want to follow me on X at Thrilly Vanilli, That's with a Y at the end of both.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
yeah,
top rope takes, real top rope takes.
real top rope takes on Instagram. And of course, keep on watching our stuff. We'll definitely subscribe because we're going to be
Yes,
dropping some more videos and stuff in the very near future. I'm excited for what we got going on in the next couple of months. And
for sure.
yeah,
All righty.
let's
All
do
right.
it.
Well, thanks for listening for this one, guys. Should be a fun SummerSlam. We'll see you here again this time next week for all the fallout. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Peace.